Ethereum is in an upside HVF setup versus the USD dollar, potentially. May just have triggered a break to the upside. However, as you're probably aware, we've suggested Bitcoin is the better coin to be holding right now. Ethereum, interestingly enough, is in a potential inverted, which has triggered an inverted setup to the downside against Bitcoin. The implication of this is that Bitcoin will overperform versus Ethereum. However, the interesting aspect is two of the biggest coins are both in upside setups or very bullish situations against Fiat. So we could be about to see an event where Fiat is devaluing quite strongly against cryptos generally as a category. This means it's costing you being in money, inverted commas money, of a fiat nature of any kind, that being dollar I'm talking about specifically, but it will also hold for pound, euro, etc., etc. What is the implications in terms of which one to be in, Ethereum or Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is the one to be in for now, as the inverted HVF pattern is valid and is holding. And only when the stop loss is run on our inverted setup does it invalidate the pattern. And the HVF law is always assumption of target being made. So we size for losses, but we assume success. So Bitcoin should, on the assumptive law, outperform Ethereum. It already has done for quite a while, but it should continue to do so, as we've been fully on Bitcoin, as long as the inverted HVF pattern that we have is in its performance zone. We have two different exchanges, so a bit of clarity there. We have a 4.5 target for Ethereum on one of the exchanges, and I think Polynex, we actually had one right down to the low threes. That doesn't mean that both will be met. The pattern can fail, and also the data on the different exchanges obviously varies. So you can sometimes get an extreme wick that affects the geometry of the pattern on one exchange. So I would say the safety downside target for Bitcoin versus Ethereum is 4.5, although there remains a possibility that the Polynex pattern of low 3.2s could occur. That said, as I say, I would bias towards caution on the Bitcoin Ethereum bearish trade. Now, I'm not going to short Ethereum against Bitcoin. I'm just not going to have an Ethereum holding, and I am and have been for the last few weeks 100% Bitcoin. So that's a little bit of an explanation about what some might see as a little bit of bullishness from Ethereum for the first time in a while against the dollar in quite a positive fashion, and it could actually be a triggering event for a very good daily upside HVF. So Ethereum could be, $500 plus. I haven't got the target to mind. I have drawn it. It's not to mine though, however. So that's an explanation of how we stand and why we still remain 100% Bitcoin, because Ethereum is also in a downside setup against Bitcoin. However, all this said, the big key point is this is costing you money not being in cryptos. This is a relative assessment of a strong category. In other words, Bitcoin versus Ethereum being measured against a very weak category, aka your fiat currencies. So this should have you thinking about how much you're keeping in your bank accounts versus how much you have allocation in your cryptocurrency, and how should you value your life and your expenditure. And many people that have now been in crypto for a while talk about their Bitcoin valuation wealth, run their accounts out of their crypto accounts for their daily fiat expenses. Maybe it's time you started to see a new benchmark. So that's Francis with a little bit of an explanation on two setups. My students have seen these, they understand them, and they know the draws and the variations. I did a webinar on this a couple of weeks ago. This is now free view available. If you can't see the patterns, maybe it's time you learned more about HVF drawing. Go to the website www.themarketsniper.com to find out more about our premium products and our premium community. Speak to you all soon.